Hey guys, I'm Adrian from AdrianMilea.com, and today I'm going to test the compressor in DS1-MK3 plugin from Softube. But before we do that, if you want to improve your mixes and masters in less than 10 minutes, go ahead and download your cheat sheet here. In the meantime, I'll play my awesome intro. The bass compressor you're using might destroy the hard work you put in your mix. I learned this the hard way. And if you feel that something is missing in your mix, maybe that something is an extra, like your bass compressor. Weiss DS1-MK3 is a de-esser, compressor and limiter plugin from Softube, based on the Weiss DS1-MK3 hardware. At the beginning, it takes a bit of adjusting to its interface, so let's take a quick overview. From the left, here's where you can see the input gain, the limiter gain or the output gain. Then we have the limiter gain reduction meter, where you can see how much limiting you're applying. In this window, there's different compressor controls that you can tweak, but if you like knobs, you can use them here on the right. Here on the top you can see the frequency range you select to compress, depending on the filters you select. By default, you can compress the full band, but you can also choose to compress a part of it, adjusting it with the bandwidth knob. You can also use a low or a half-pass filter. Then, depending on your needs, you can change the filter frequency using the frequency knob. Next, we have the compressor reduction meter, where you can see how much compression is applied to your material. Here you can see the knee range that you can change in the hidden options. And here's the peak meter, which you can set to sample peak or true peak, and which also shows the levels of your channels and the average RMS levels. Next, we have the waveform display, where you can set the output gain and the limiter gain. If you click on the input, you can control the input gain using the gain knob. You can also control the limiter gain here with the same gain knob. Same goes for the output gain. I mentioned the hidden options. Here's where you can set the dithering, the different types of limiters, the sidechain, different metering settings, the knee range, and so on. On the bottom, we have the bypass button to activate and deactivate the plugin. Then, the AB slots can be used for different settings. The monitor option can be used to listen to how the plugin is processing your material. The sidechain link is here for you to use. Then, you can activate the parallel compression mode right here. And if you want to use the limiter in the plugin, you need to activate the safe limiter mode. And of course you can choose between the 3 limiter modes in the hidden options. By default, you can process audio in stereo mode, but if you need it, there's the MS mode for mid-side processing. When the gauged option is on, depending on the mode you're in, both left and right channels, or if you're in MS mode, both mid and sides are processed in the same way. In MS mode, if the gauge is set to off, you can adjust the processing for the mid part using channel 1 and channel 2 for the sides. When the gauge is off, in stereo mode you can process the left and right channels independently. You can adjust the processing for the left channel clicking on the channel 1 button, and for the right one you need to select the channel 2. Then here's where you can watch the overs or the clipping. As mentioned, you can choose to compress the full frequencies band or only parts of it. When you select high-pass filter, for example, you have some visuals of it, and you can also change the frequency here. Next, we have the compressor attack, the release delay, the release fast, which you can set for the peaks, the average release, and release slow, which is applied to the RMS value. Then we have the soft knee, the compressor threshold, the ratio, and the gain makeup. Now, let's listen to how the compressor sounds. For this test, I'm going to use a mix of mine, where I wanted to accentuate the pumping effect. And I also took out from the bus the mastering bass compressor I used. And now, let's see if I can improve this mix with the DS1 compressor. I'm going to start with the default settings, and I'll take out the limiter as I don't need it at this time. So, as you may have noticed, even if I'm compressing about 2 dBs at a 2:1 ratio, the compressor keeps the transparency of the mix. As I'm compressing the full band, the low end is more compressed, and I hear it being more controlled when the compressor is on. Now I'm going to compress the mix using some filters. Let's start with the high-pass filter. When applying a filter, you can use the gain makeup to add some gain of the frequencies you're processing. In this case, the low end is not processed, so its gain is not affected by the gain makeup. Let's try another filter. When I'm applying the compressor in this case, the mix gets a bit cleaner in the low mids. Let's say that I wanted to compress only the low end. I can do it using the low pass filter. Now, the low end is much more controlled. Let's get back to the full band compression. The mix gets more controlled and cleaner when compression is applied. Okay, so let's try another part of the mix. The DS1 compressor in the downward compression mode brings together the elements of the mix a bit more. It controls more the low end, and for this particular mix it helps further with the intended pumping effect. If you want to keep the transients of your mix while making it fatter or thicker, a great trick is to use parallel compression, and we're about to test how the compressor in the DS1 affects this mix in parallel compression mode. I'm going to select the B slot, deactivate the limiter, and compress the mix. Next, I'm taking out the gain makeup. Let's activate the parallel compression mode. At this point, you should hear no difference. With the parallel compression mode activated and the gain makeup taken out, we're listening to the original unprocessed mix. To inject some of the compressed mix in the original mix, use the gain makeup. Let's click on the monitor to listen to the amount of processed mix we're injecting. As we are using the gain makeup for the amount of parallel compression, we'll have to use the output gain in order to match the levels of the before and after processing. Using parallel compression makes the mix thicker, while keeping the mix transients. Now, let's apply some selective parallel compression, using some filters. The mix is getting thicker with parallel compression, and we're keeping the low end unaffected in this case. Now let's compare the two versions, the downward and parallel compression. I like more the downward compression for this particular mix. However, I also like that both modes compress the original mix in clean, transparent ways. For testing the MS mode, I copied the settings from slot A to B, so let's activate the mid-side option and set the gains to off. So with channel 1 we're controlling the mid part. Let's compress the sides first, using the channel 2. And we're compressing about 3 dBs of the sides. Now, let's compress the center. As we are using the gain makeup to control the individual level for mid and sides, we'll have to use the output gain to match the before and after levels. As the sides are more compressed than the center, I did this intentionally by the way, you can notice a difference in the stereo image, but the compression is still clean. In stereo mode, we used selective compression with the help of filters. The good news is that you can do the same in the MS mode. And if you want to take advantage of the parallel compression, you can do it, following the same steps I have showed you in the stereo mode. Now I'm going to test the DS1 compressor with the same settings I like, but I'm going to also activate the limiter in DS1. In fact, I will actually have some fun in testing it really quick against TS Electronics brick wall limiter, the power core version, just to hear how the two compare in this particular mix. So let's copy the same instance of the plugin we worked so far on 2 auxiliary tracks. Next, I'm going to use the Type 2 limiter on the DS1, which is supposed to be a fast and transparent limiter mode, but which also is recommended for dealing with true peaks. Let's activate the limiter. Also, I'm going to set the gain output to -1 dB on DS1. I have already set the threshold on the brick wall to -1 dB and added about 10 dBs of gain. Let's add some limiter gain on the DS1 until the loudness of the two limiters match as much as possible. So what I want to test here is a mastering scenario, with the same downward compression we tested so far on the mastering bus, so the same DS1 compressor, but with two different limiters, the Type 2 limiter in DS1 versus the brick wall, the power core version. Let's listen to which limiter would be better for this mix. Even if we use the same DS1 compressor, in this part I can hear that the brick wall version has more freedom and depth, while the DS1 limiter version takes a lot of depth of the mix. Let's try another part. Here the DS1 limiter tightens the stereo image of the mix, also its depth. The brick wall affects the top end, but it sounds better overall compared to DS1 limiter for this particular mix. So this proves once again why it is important to have more limiters in your toolbox and the right one for your material. Even if your mix sounds great up to the bass compression level, you might destroy your hard work using the wrong limiter. Bass compression is essential both when mixing and mastering, and choosing the right bass compressor can take your mix to the next level or break it completely. However, the bass compression is one of the last steps when mixing a song. There are lots of things to be taken into consideration that will help you in achieving better mixes and masters, even before thinking about your bass compressor choice. This is why I created the Music Production Masterclass, where I'm showing you exactly how to produce a song from the very first hum or idea up to the mastered version. If you want to learn how to compose, produce, record, mix and master a song without the unnecessary nonsense, check out my Music Production Masterclass. After you enroll, I'll see you on the other side. In this video I tested the compressor in the DS1-MK3 from Softube. If you want to see and hear how the limiter on the DS1 plugin sounds, I created another video that you can watch. In conclusion, at 2 dBs of compression and a 2:1 ratio, the compressor in DS1-MK3 applies compression in a very transparent manner. Of course, it can be more aggressive at higher ratio and threshold levels. I like how it controls the low end and how at gentle settings it makes the material cleaner. I like that you don't actually see the values besides the knobs, which lets you listen and not watch how the compressor affects your material. I like its downward compression and the parallel mode. Also, this is really important by the way, there are compressors on the market that only by inserting them on your bass, they put an unwanted 2D blanket on your mix. This is not the case with the compressor in the DS1-MK3. So, the bottom line is, in my honest opinion, the compressor in the Weiss DS1-MK3 plugin from Softube is one of the best software compressors I have ever tested. At this point, I would really love to have a multi-band version of it. And now it's time for you to subscribe and share with me in the comments below if you use DS1 in your work. And if you do use it, tell me how. Until next time, stay cool and make great music.